Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll just give it a couple more seconds for folks that are still trying to get in. Not sure where all you're based at, morning, afternoon, maybe even headed to the evening if you're based out at East Coast. So we do have our speaker, Erin, with us this morning. It's 12 o'clock and 1 minute past 12. I think we can get started. So Erin?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Ready when you are.
Thank you, Erin. Welcome, team. Grad Achiever platform is hosting another podcast for you all, just in time because all the college applications rush is going on. So today we have with us Erin Donovan. She's a lifelong educator and has helped hundreds of students improve not only their academic grades, but also to help them get into the elite colleges, receive top scholarships, and also turn out to be as young, confident, and self-resilient young adults for all the high schoolers. And Erin has a master's degree from Johns Hopkins and also has worked in Portugal. She has a wonderful background and has been in this in the field of helping students for a long time. So we'll let her take over. But in the meanwhile, I would also like to take a quick minute to introduce and reiterate what this Grad Achiever platform is about. We are a bunch of female women in tech who have founded this particular platform, mainly to bring all the students and their parents together and build a community. Because right now, if we need help to get or explore anything regarding colleges, you have to join hundreds of different Facebook groups, different WhatsApp groups. So we thought, that is not a sustainable one. And with that reason, we have created this platform where we want to bring not only the podcast from the bright minds like Erin, but also bring the tutors, counselors, and have the platform for parents and students to interact, get help, and give back to the community. So if you haven't logged into our gradachiever.com platform, please do log in and check out the website. Apart from getting all the resources, another important thing that a lot of users visit us is because we keep bringing in a lot of volunteer and internship opportunities that are available throughout the country. So with that said, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Erin. Erin, if you don't mind, please take over and shed some light into this whole college application process, please.
Of course, I'd be happy to. So thank you all so much for being here. I have a couple of slides, so I'll just share my screen really quickly here. And we'll get started. So this is one of my favorite workshops we host. We call it College Admissions 101 because we have 3 to 4 college admissions only workshops that we do put on throughout the year. But this one I really like because it's the foundations. It's everything that you need to know about what you're going to be, expecting to come at you. And so you really get a clear picture of what college admissions entails. And obviously this is just the tip of the iceberg, but at least you get a bird's eye view of the process. And I think it's really helpful whether you are brand new to college admissions because this is your first child, or maybe you're not from the US originally and you went to university in a different country. This is a really great opportunity to understand US admissions, how it's changed, whether you went through US admissions or haven't, how it's changed in the past couple of years, and what you need to know today. So that is what we will cover today. My name, as she mentioned, is Erin. I am the COO of all 3 of these companies: College Mastermind, Exclusive Private Tutoring, and Coach Counselor Center. We do a ton of work with teenagers. College Mastermind is focused on college admissions, university preparedness. Exclusive Private Tutoring is our K through 12 tutoring company. And then Coach Counselor Center, we do everything from teen mental health to, career coaching, life coaching, and all things in between. So that is where I am from, in case you were wondering. And now I know why you're here today, because I get asked pretty much the same question by every single family who comes to us. It's like, most parents want to know, how do I get my child into a college they want while minimizing the costs? So that's probably why you're here today. You have maybe one of these 2 questions that are curious on your mind. How do we get into a good university, and how do we pay for it? So we're going to talk a little bit about each of these today, and we'll break down the basics for you. And if you have any questions along the way, please pop them into the chat. So a lot of people in the US have this idea that maybe I need some kind of connections to get into a great college. I need to know somebody in the admissions office, and maybe that would help you, but it's not really the answer. Do we need to have lots of money and make donations? Well, again, that might help you, but it's not actually the answer. And then a lot of families think that it has to do with luck. For those of you who don't know, the university admissions process has become one of the most competitive areas and industries that we have in the US. College admissions is extremely competitive. Many of the top universities admitting, single digit percentages, 9%, all the way to 1%. Okay, so some universities are admitting like 2% of students, 2% of applicants. So what this means for us is that we have to understand what these universities are looking for. Many people who don't know just say, well, it must be luck, because they don't know what the answer is. But that's not actually true. And I'm going to teach you how it works today so that you can understand how to get predictable results from admissions. Now, we won't be able to go into everything because we're just hitting the basics here. But this is the first step to understanding this process that will actually help you either get accepted or get scholarships. Okay, because that's the name of the game. Now, some parents just want to go with the flow and, do whatever comes up as it comes, and that's totally acceptable. Many parents make that choice. But since you're taking your Sunday to spend time with us today, I'm guessing that you actually want to know how this works. How do we actually get results from this? How can we have something happen that will give us an understanding of what we need to do to be successful? So that's what we're going to teach you today. And I call it the college success formula, probably because I was a math teacher for so many years, but I really like algorithms, and I like objective results. I like to know what works and what doesn't work. I like the black and white answers. So I try to bring those to families as much as possible. College admissions has two main components. The first piece is academic fit. Okay, that is what we all expect. Good grades, good scores, all of those things. We're going to talk about each of those pieces today. And the second part is the value you bring. We are not going to be covering that today because that's a more advanced concept that we teach in other workshops. But for today, you're going to fully understand what it is that they're looking for through this process of the fit academically, as well as a little bit of the value. We'll touch on it. But if you master both of these two aspects of admissions, you will get acceptance or scholarships. Mostly, you're going to get one or the other. If you're going for a top name university and that's what you want, then this will work. If you're going for a middle of the road university and trying to maximize your financial benefits, your awards, this will work. So no matter which realm you care about the most, this will work for you, okay? Now, let's talk about academic fit. Typically speaking, there are four main places we look for academic fit in a student based on if they're selecting a university. One is GPA, one is test scores, class rigor, which means the difficulty level of their classes like honors, AP, and class rank. We're going to talk about each of these pieces. So I like to start with a little myth here. So GPA, a lot of parents think that great academics will get you accepted with merit scholarships. This was true when I went to university. So way back then, when I went to college, that was what it took. You got good test scores, you got a good GPA, you're given a full ride scholarship, you received all of these benefits, and then your financial aid may have supported as well. So that was very true around 15 years ago. But in 2016, college admissions changed. They moved to what they call a more holistic admissions approach. And because of this, they have become even more careful with how they allocate acceptances as well as scholarships. So this is a starting point. Colleges will look at things like unweighted GPA and test scores as starting points for acceptance and scholarships. Okay, so this is the hardest thing for most of us who went through admissions years ago to understand and to adapt. And I'm going to be honest, when I first started working in college admissions around 12 years ago, this was the hardest mindset for me to change because I was like, we've got to get the test scores, we've got to get the GPA. And that was all I was focused on. And as I started to watch the processes of who got in and who didn't, and started to learn and grow, suddenly this formula became very clear to me that there is way more going on here than just academics alone. So we'll talk about that later, but what role does academics still play? So if you think about admissions, I like to think there's still a paper stack, but we all know it's digital now. College admissions, they've got a giant stack of people who have applied. From this, they do what's called an initial read. So every university has people who have been hired called initial readers. These initial readers are sometimes alumni. They're sometimes people who are like brand new in the admissions office. They're not the senior admissions officers. So what happens in this stage is they're given specific criteria to eliminate students from the stack. Now, every university is very secretive about what their criteria are, and nobody actually talks about this outright. So you have to know admissions officers to know this information, but basically there's a first read. And that first read is where they read through the application and they try to get rid of as many students as possible to get the pile down, because they have a pile this big and they only have room for this many. So their main job is to eliminate students. That is how academics are used. It is used to take you from the maybe pile to either the no pile, but not the yes pile. Back many, many years ago, this was the path to get into the yes pile. Now it just keeps you in the maybe pile and keeps you out of the no pile. So that's how academics are used, and we're going to go into what they look for now. So a lot of people want to know, like, what GPA do I need? And it's very uncomfortable to receive the answer, it depends, but it really depends on the objective you are trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get in, now these are unweighted GPAs because most universities look at those and not weighted. So if you are looking at a top 50 university and you have a GPA under 3.8, it's not a great chance. It doesn't mean it's a no completely, but if you're under a 3.6, there's no way, like you're just not going to get in. Okay, so whenever I look at these categories, I kind of take the next step down. And if you're under the next step down, there's probably a no. Okay, if you're looking at a top 100, you want a 3.6 or above. If you're looking at like a state flagship university, these are the slightly less selective universities. Then that would be a 3.0. If you're looking at a selective state university, like Ohio State or any of the University of Californias, those can be in either of these categories. So again, it just depends on the university and the difficulty level. If you are looking to get into an honors program, you want to make sure your child has a 3.5 or above. Merit-based scholarships, 3.5 or above. And if you want selective STEM programs, like your child is looking at computer science at a selective, even if the university is not as selective, but the computer science program is very selective, then again, you're kind of looking at these same expectations of these types of universities. Okay, so that's GPA. Let's move into test scores. So GPA is still the number one thing that is the most important part of the first stage of college admissions. As I mentioned, they use academics to filter you through. And if you filter through that phase, you're able to really take that and say, okay, now that we're filtered into this step, we've got the GPA. What do they look at next? Test scores. Now, if you have questions on test scores, please pop them in. We do have some great slides here, though. A lot of people will say, do I need to submit test scores? This is a huge question we have gotten ever since test optional became an option. And when COVID hit and a lot of colleges went test optional, a lot of parents say, well, we'll spend our energy doing other things. Now, this is not the recommendation I would give. If you want to get into the yes pile, every positive checkpoint that you can check off on your child's application will move them closer to the yes pile. Any negative that the child has will move them closer to the no pile or put them directly into it. So our objective is to always inch toward the yes pile, because as we inch, some people aren't. So it's kind of like those races where you've got the balloons and you're shooting the water gun into the spot so that they can race. And it's like some are just staying and you're moving forward. So who's going to get into the yes pile ultimately will be the people who moved forward the most and the fastest. Okay, so that's how admissions works. If you understand that, you begin to understand every piece can be a piece that moves you forward a lot, a little, or not at all. If you don't submit a test, you don't move forward. You also don't move back, but you don't move forward. okay? Our objective in college admissions is that every piece, every opportunity we have, we try to move you forward toward the yes. The faster you get into the yes pile, the more scholarships you end up with usually as well. Merit-based scholarships, not financial aid. That's determined by the government. Okay, so if you ask us, I don't think you should do test optional. I think you should definitely submit a good test score. Now, if you don't have a good test score, then you should get one. Okay, so a lot of people say, well, my child didn't do well. It's like, that's okay. You can take the test many times. It's not like the PSAT. The PSAT is a test you take junior year, and you can only take it once. But the SAT and ACT, you can take a few times. You can practice. You can do test prep in between. You can work with a tutor. We have plenty of tutors at our company. You could work with anybody, a peer tutor at your high school. You can do Khan Academy for free. However you're going to do it, you should prep for this test. So how many times should you take it? Well, we think 3 times max. Okay, so you can take a diagnostic and then do some test prep, get the results here, obviously, see where you start, do some test prep, do studying, take an official test, see how the results go, do more test prep, then take another official test. And that one can be your last one. Okay, you should not take the test more than 4 times. If you do take it 4 just because like, oh, something, we just want to take one more, that's okay. But 5 times is actually really, it can move you back. Okay, so remember how we talked about moving forward or moving back. Too many tests can start to move you back, but a high test score can actually move you forward. And a lot of students are choosing not to submit. So they're all staying put and your child is going, do, 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 do. Oh, great. They got a great score. Okay. So that's what we believe about test prep. So what scores are good scores? We get this question a lot. What's a good SAT or ACT score? Again, it depends. It depends on the university you're applying to. We've got highly selective. They're difficult. If you're looking at top tier Ivy League, like a 1550 is what is considered a good score. A 1500 is considered acceptable. I wouldn't submit anything under a 1500 to a top like 20 university. Selective universities, you've got 1300 plus or 29 plus. State universities, again, these are less selective state universities. You've got 1200 or 25. Okay, if you are looking for merit, then we're looking at a 1320 or a 28. And then if you're looking for big merit numbers, like merit is your number one objective, then you want a 1430 or a 33 plus. These are kind of what I call like the magic thresholds where merit can get really nice. You can see things like full ride tuition scholarships at certain universities and things like that. So tuition, not room and board, but that's really great for a lot of families. So that's basically the scoring. If you are close to these numbers, get above them. You know, like if your child is looking at a selective university and they have a 1450 or a 1250, get above, go, you know, have them prep, really do that. It will help them. What if my child has less test scores after trying 4 times? Should he submit or not? So it depends on the universities. Again, I'd look at this chart and I think that you probably should not submit if the score is low and they've taken it 4 times. The only exception is if they take it a 5th time and get a crazy good score and they finally studied, then you could submit. But honestly, at this point, I don't think you're in a good position for that. Do we need to submit PSAT? No, the PSAT is submitted to universities automatically in some ways. That is how universities start to recruit students academically. So they basically just, you know, have things to really look at in terms of all of that. They're going to look at those scores and they're going to decide which students do we want to academically recruit, just like they decide which athletes to recruit. Okay, so if you've never taken a test and you want to do a diagnostic and you don't want to get an official test, because again, we don't want too many officials, we have a free test every single month that you can register for. So if you would like to do that, you can head to our website, collegemastermind.com/events, and you can pick any of the days. Obviously, this one was yesterday, so you can't choose that one, but you can choose any of the days coming up. We'd be happy to have you all there. So again, collegemastermind.com/events. Also, we'd like to give away a bonus. So let's see, who is the last person to put something in the chat? Connie, we're going to give you a little prize and you can decide at the end between any of these things, but you'll just email me, Erin, at collegemastermind.com, and you get a free prize for a free session. So we've got lots of options and I'll tell you what those are through an email. So just go ahead and email me. Okay. Class rigor. Let's talk about class rigor. This is the difficulty level of how hard it is to get through that class. Is it an AP class? Is it an IB class? Is it honors? Is it dual enrollment? So for those of you who don't know what these are, IB is International Baccalaureate. Not every high school has this. AP, most high schools have advanced placement. Honors, most high schools have, and dual enrollment is where your child actually goes to the college to attend a couple of classes. So all of these are great options and help with class rigor. If your school offers none of this, it's not a problem. They're only comparing you to the academic rigor available at your high school. So you don't have to stress if your school doesn't have AP or things like that. So class rigor, when they look at the difficulty level of your classes, they are mainly looking at your 5 core subjects, which are English, math, history, science, and foreign language. A lot of students will do things like take robotics, take AP economics, and that's fine. You can do all of that. But what they're looking for mostly are your 5 core classes. Okay, economics can sometimes be used as a social studies class, but anyways, you don't need to go crazy with your electives. You don't need to take AP art history because AP art history is an elective. It's not going to be that impressive to a university. So I tell parents, the best place to take your APs and your advanced classes are in these categories. Now, if your school has an advanced band or things like that, that's fine. But don't take too many electives that are ultra homework heavy, because you want your child to be doing very well in these 5 classes. These are the ones that matter most to the universities, okay? And if you take a study hall instead of a hard elective, it's pretty much the same thing, which is crazy, but that's true. They really care mostly about your 5 core classes. This is also why we recommend families to do your 5 core classes all 4 years of high school. So that means foreign language all 4 years if you can. Science all 4 years, history all 4 years, etc. Okay, so if your child is doing foreign language 2 years, it's really better to have 4 if you're going for way more competitive scholarships and way more competitive acceptances and applications. Okay. All righty. So here's a little tip that we tell families who work with us: do not sacrifice your unweighted GPA for an advanced AP or IB class, because many universities actually don't give as much weight to those as you think. They're going to look at your regular GPA, not necessarily your weighted GPA, okay? All right, class rank. Now, not every high school ranks their students, and if your high school does not, it will not harm your children in the slightest. So don't stress about this, but if your high school does rank, here are some of the ranking percentages that certain types of universities would look for. If you're looking at a top university, they're looking for the top students from the class. If you're looking at a selective, they're looking for top 10. If you're looking at to be very competitive for scholarships and things like that, they're looking at top 25. And what's expected at most universities is a top 50%, unless it's like a safety school or has a very high acceptance rate. So if you have a university like Arizona State University, for example, has a very high acceptance rate, then they're not going to be as concerned about this. But the more selective the university, the more prestige they're looking for in terms of your ranking. Okay. If you have any questions, those are the big academic categories. I just want to touch on a couple of other things. I know we wanted to take a break and do a little intro here of the platform. So now's a great time to do that. And if you do have questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end.
Thanks, Erin. Surbhi, on to you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Surbhi. I'm one of the founders of Grad Achiever. And here is the great Grad Achiever platform. When you go to the gradachiever.com, it will actually land up into the landing page, which looks like something like this. And then after that, when you will log in here, it will become as a login screen. And once you register and log in, you will see the screen. And then we have the different sections which we have created. One is the event. So where even we keep adding the events and all that. Even if you have your own event, which you would like to do it, you yourself can go and create the event. And then you can go to the groups, and there are already existing group which you can join it, and you can also create your own group. If you have like, few members which you would like to talk about some specific, maybe school specific, if you have any event in the school, you would like to create a group for the conversation, you can do that. Here is the members where you can actually search for any members if you would like to connect to somebody, all of that. And then we have the opportunities. Here is, we keep posting about the internship, scholarship, summer programs, and volunteering opportunities. And we have it basically for high school students and for the undergrad. So some are applicable for the undergrad and grad students, and some are applicable to high school. So you can actually filter it out from here. And if you have it, for example, there is an event in your school and all that, you're looking for the volunteers and all that, you can post the opportunities going here. And apart from that, we have quite many resources, like we have the UC GPA calculator, which is the University of California GPA calculator, because UC's University of California calculates the GPA little differently. So we have that pages in the resource. We have the podcast where, even today's podcast will be uploaded once it is done. We have the high school course selections. Here it will be like, if you are looking for some specific career, like, okay, you would like to become a journalist, right? So like, what will be the starting point for selecting your subjects in the freshman, sophomore, and junior and senior year? This is like kind of a guidance which you can take it. And then we have the tutors and counselors section. Here we have the tutors and the counselors listed. Like, if you will go to the tutors, if you're searching for, like, for example, physics tutor, you can search it, and you just search the tutor, and you can contact them as per your needs. So we do not take anything like, whatever your tutor is charging, whatever you are giving it to them, it is completely between you and your tutor. The same thing with the counselors. We have the list of counselors which are registered on our platform. You can actually reach out to any one of them. And in fact, today's presenter, Erin, is also on the platform. You can actually reach out to her by going here and then say, contact me. Apart from that, we have the blog section where we keep writing the blogs about the things which is related to the college admissions. And then it's not that only we can write the blog, you yourself can also go to the profile and create the blogs. You can create, and then if you have knowledge about some specific, like, for example, you have already gone through the SAT and ACT, you would like to give tips and trips to anybody, you can do that. Then we have the My Plans. So in the high school course selection, we said, like, okay, what are the courses you should take it as per, like, if you have any particular profession in mind. That was a general overview. But if you would like to plan your own courses, then you can actually, this is a kind of a little planner for yourself only. You can do it here. This is for the all 4 years we have it. Then we have the career quiz. Here you can actually go ahead and take the career quiz, which will kind of help you to understand, because there are, like, different careers are present, and it will actually kind of help you, okay, which, based on my personality, based on my liking, dislikings and all that, what career really suits me well. So this will kind of give you a result. And you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And this is the section where recent opportunity gets posting, and the recent blogs keep posting. And upcoming events comes this side. I think that's pretty much I have it. Anybody has any questions, please reach out, please register on the platform. I think over to you, Kavita.
Thank you, Surbi, again, for all our participants. I hope you all have registered. If not, please do go ahead, register, and use this platform. And other great thing that you can encourage your high schoolers, let's say their specialty is some of the APs, they have really scored high, then this might be their good opportunity to start writing the blogs, right? Then they'll have followers, and if needed, they can always reference this also as well in their college applications. So again, this particular platform is to help create a community. So we really, really require your support to spread the word and join the platform and start contributing to help each other. So with that said, now we'll resume Erin's presentation where she had a lot of good stuff coming in. Erin, back to you, please.
Great. We're almost done, actually. So we are now heading into letters of recommendation. So we've talked about the academics. We've talked about GPA, test scores, class rigor, class rank. That is, again, the first stage that you filter through when your application is opened. They're kind of saying, is this a serious candidate for this university based on their academic fit? Then they go into the next phase. I call this like the soft phase. The other one is the hard phase. It's objective. This is the subjective phase. It's where they get to see your child's personality. And they see that through a couple of ways. Now, we're going to talk about a few of them today because we have special workshops for other parts of this. But letters of recommendation is a huge one. A lot of people don't think about this as something that is within their control because they really don't consider letter of rec as something that they contribute to. Your teacher writes it. However, there are a lot of things that you can do preemptively to ensure that you get a very good letter of rec, because I am telling you that the letter of rec can be one of your strongest components of your application. Everything else is cultivated by you, and so it has a filter on it. But these teachers are very honest usually about a student's character, about their personality, about what they like about them, and about what they see as challenges for the student. So I was a high school teacher for many, many years, and I was a junior high school teacher. So I taught juniors, which means I wrote a lot of letters of recommendation. And I was also a core subject, a mathematics teacher. So you imagine I was writing a lot of letters of rec. And what I will tell you is that I was honest in them. No matter what, how much I liked the student, no matter what, I was honest about their strengths and honest about their weaknesses. So the best thing you can do to get a great letter of rec is to be an exceptional student. Now, a lot of people think, well, okay, well, I work really hard and I get good grades. That's not necessarily what they're looking for. That's what the transcript is for. The teacher's letters of rec, they're actually looking for your personality, your character, and your ability to connect within the community. So this is a little bit of a secret lens into your child. And the crazy part is your child will not read these letters of rec before they're sent. So how do you get a good one? Well, when our clients work with us, we actually walk them through to create a template to hand to their teachers so that we tell them like what things we want them to highlight. We ask them what things maybe not to highlight. And this can be very, very effective because you go in, you have a full discussion with your teacher, you sit down, you talk about what you've created for them, you show them you've put a lot of effort into it, you tell them your objectives and tell them the ways you've grown, tell them the things you still know are your challenges, but please don't mention them because I am trying to get into these universities. And if you think I'm a good fit, that I could handle the academics, then blah, 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 right? We actually set it up so that students can make sure they get the best letter of rec possible. Now, if you're just going to go to your teacher and ask for a letter of rec, and obviously you want to be a good student first, but if you're just going to go and ask for a letter of rec without doing that legwork, then sometimes you just hand something in and you have no idea what they wrote. So that's a piece. We don't like the unknowns of college admissions. Try as much as you can to avoid them. So a couple of tips for you all is to make sure you ask a core teacher. Remember the 5 core classes: math, English, history, science, and foreign language. Okay, so those are your 5 core classes. Ask those teachers. Those are the teachers that the universities care about. If you have a band teacher and a university allows you to have 2, then you can choose the band teacher. But if your university only allows 1, you should always choose an academic core subject. Okay. You also want a teacher who knows you. So for example, if you had a teacher who you did math club with and you went on this 10th grade retreat, and she was also your chaperone for that trip, and you were in her group and you spent like a full week in Germany with her, that's the teacher you want. Okay. You want the teacher who knows you not just academically. If you're just a good student who raises your hand, but you've never actually had dialogue with this teacher, it's not going to be as strong, because remember, they are not looking for academic strengths through these letters of rec. They're looking for other things. The academic strengths are coming from the transcript. Okay. Also, we recommend to our clients, we always say, ask in May. We have a date where we say, okay, start asking your teachers for your letters of rec. And we tell them to ask in May. The reason is that in September, when everybody comes back and everyone's stressed senior year about college admissions, they start inundating teachers with requests for letters of rec. If you ask in May, maybe your teacher will write it over the summer. And then you're like the only person who they're writing it for, or you're one of a few who asked early. If you ask in September, October, November, December, any of those months leading up to admissions, early action, early decisions, typically early November deadline, January, early January for regular decision. So anywhere from September to January, it's a really bad time. I had a student ask me for a letter of rec a couple of days before the early action deadline. It was actually the day before, and I said no, because I couldn't. I had all of these clients we were taking care of, and he said, I need a second one. I didn't know. I can't ask a teacher. And I said, I cannot write the caliber of letter of rec. I said, is it required or optional? He said, optional. I said, don't submit it, because it's better to have no letter of rec than one that's just cookie cutter and fake. To write a great letter of recommendation takes time. Ask early. This will prevent you getting a cookie cutter. So a cookie cutter letter of rec, I'm embarrassed to say this now that I know how important these are, but when I was a teacher getting close to those application deadlines, I would start like changing students' names and changing he to she, and then saying a couple of extra things, but it was pretty much like the same paragraph again and again. Now, when our students go through this process and we walk them through, we want a long and strong letter of rec. That is your objective. Long and strong with lots of good attributes about your character and personality. Okay, we won't go massively in depth in scholarships today, but we do have a contact page. So if you have questions about scholarships, today is not really the workshop for that, but we know that those are big on people's minds. So we're just going to touch on it. So you are welcome to reach out to us through our website. You just go to collegemastermind.com/contact. So scholarships there are 3 types of scholarships, 3 types of money you can get. I'm not including loans because nobody likes loans. We actually don't encourage students to take out too many loans. I think it's not a great choice. Merit scholarships are based on your merits, mostly GPA and test scores. Those come from the universities. They're automatically either you qualify for them or you don't. Mostly it's based on your GPA and your test scores. Okay, need-based aid. This is based on the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Okay, so typically the FAFSA is released every October. This year, the FAFSA is released in December. So we're giving a completely free workshop. If you have a senior this year, it's December 16th. Again, go to collegemastermind.com/events. You're welcome to attend that completely free. We're going to walk you through the FAFSA step by step with an actual scholarship and FAFSA expert. So she will be with us. She's part of our team and she will guide you all through. You can ask your questions and do it with her. So we hope you will join us for that. And also you can apply to scholarships. You can apply to specific university scholarships, which would be located on their website. Once you're accepted, you can go in and say like, okay, I'm going to try to go for this scholarship and this. You can also do outside scholarships. This is a really great option if your family is a higher income family or you have a high net worth family and you're not going to qualify for any financial aid. Outside scholarships are awesome for you, especially if your child is very involved, has high GPA and high test scores. If your child does not have a GPA of like 3.0 and above, you probably should not really apply for outside scholarships. Most of them still have a GPA cutoff. 3.5 is really where you want your GPA to be for scholarships. So I'm not saying not to do it at all, but I'm just saying the chances are lower. So just being honest about it. If that means college is really unaffordable to you, you should go for a public university in state and keep it as affordable as possible, or do community college first. I would love to say so much more about finances. There's so much to talk about, but obviously we have to respect the time for today, so we won't go into further. We have so many events because extracurriculars are another huge part of college admissions. So again, that's its own workshop because it's so much information, but let me give you just a little tip here. The most important thing to know about extracurriculars is that you want your child to have really deep extracurriculars. We actually will take students who are looking to get into top tier universities, for example, and they have a ton of extracurriculars. They do piano and they do violin and they're in the marching band playing xylophone, and they're doing, this random volunteering randomly. And they've got all of these random activities interspersed throughout their time. What we recommend is to take 1 to 2 activities and to go very deep with them. So, for example, if your child is very into music, to take that to a deep level where maybe they're doing something exceptional with that talent. Okay, they're really contributing to the community with it. They're doing their private lessons and they're doing their marching band or whatever they're doing, but they're also finding something like a project to do around that would take them to the next level and really move them forward. Because remember, you've got your little race and all of the people are coming along, and we're trying to move ahead of the pack. So if the pack is all doing marching band and everyone's moving together, we're doing marching band, we're doing this, we're in NHS, we've got lots of APs, we've got good test scores, we're all moving. And some people are falling back in that process. But then how do you get to the yes when you've got a whole stack of people left who are qualified academically and qualified with all of their extracurriculars? We've got to find the people who did something really neat with them. Okay. So if you don't have a lot of extracurriculars because maybe your child isn't involved as much, you're welcome to join. We have 3 internships every single year. You're welcome to join our spring internship. We're already into our fall, so you can't join that one. We've got our spring internship. We've got an internship in the summer as well. We do marketing, we do sales, we do all sorts of things to teach students a little bit more about business. So if your child is interested in business or anything along those lines, we'd be happy to have them. You can find information on our website. We've got collegemastermind.com/internship if you'd like to see that. So just to kind of wrap it up, and then we'll get into questions. Academics, as I mentioned, are very, very important. All of the things we talked about are important. The most important piece to get accepted in prestigious universities or to get top scholarships is that you've got to get to the front of that pack the fastest. Now, the way you do that has changed, and this is just a tweet to show you. This is about a year old now, but it says, fact check. In a recent admission cycle, there were 2,000 spots at Harvard College. 8,000 US applicants had perfect GPAs. 4,000 were ranked first in their high school class. And look at these, 18,000 and 20,000 were in the top 7 and 9% on the SAT scores. So you see, it's not just academics anymore. It can't be. There's too many qualified students. Students have become very good at getting good grades. There is also something called grade inflation, where most students are getting A's now. It's very hard for them to determine which students are exceptional from just grades and transcripts alone. So they're looking at those outside factors. The other piece that I didn't mention today that I actually forgot to make a slide for is essays. Those are super important. Your essays, beyond getting through that first filter phase, your essays are what will move you the fastest in the yes direction, or actually can land you in the no pile. So that is something so important to understand. But those are the big pieces of college admissions. That is it in a nutshell. So I hope that was helpful to you all. We really try to give as much information to families as we can. We have a ton of options at College Mastermind, so we'd be happy to serve you in any way if you are looking for help. And if you would like some bonuses, please just scan this on your phone and I'll kind of walk through what is on them. We've got a real past SAT and ACT, but if you're going to come take a test with us, it's the same test. So just come take a test with us instead. Okay. And we've got a university deadline tracking sheet for you in there. We've got a college visit PDF, and we've got a mini guide to the UC schools. We mentioned UC schools earlier. Any of you in California might be interested in that. And also, I guess we won't have the replay because this isn't my session, but you'll find the replay where they said it would be, and we'd be happy to send that to you all, the bonuses. You just have to register using this scanner. So that's all. Thank you all so much. Let's take some questions now.
Thank you, Erin. This was a super packed podcast. Really appreciate all of it. And I'm sure each of these sections need their own, I guess, podcast to delve into deeper. But,
exactly.
You're here. If our audience ever need help, you're there to serve them. So with that said, we'll go from the top of the questions. I think Ravi had a question. If my kid has less test scores in spite of trying 4 times, should the student submit or not submit?
So if you've taken it 4 times and the test scores are still low, probably not submit. I mean, they're probably at this point, if they've taken it 4 times already, they're probably a senior, so it's too late. There's just nothing. I would not submit a low score, because again, a normal score or no score will keep you in place, but a low score can actually harm their opinion of your child. So it's better not to submit a low score than to submit.
So, well, there are some colleges who clearly specify that test scores are optional. In that case, Erin, submitting it, will it put the child ahead? Because if they're optional, technically they should not be looking at the scores at all, right?
That's what optional means, technically. But why would they have anybody submit it if they weren't going to consider it? So there's something called test blind. Test blind, like the University of California, is test blind. They don't look at scores from anybody. So we know they're not using them. But why? Correct. So what are they actually saying? Do you know why universities are doing that, by the way? It's a little tricky. I don't like it. They're doing it because it increases their applications. Students who had good scores in the past could only apply to those universities, because the students who had low scores are like, I'm not going to get in, my scores are too low. So what these universities want is they want to drive their acceptance or their applications up so they can drive their acceptance rates down, because it looks really impressive if Harvard says we only accept 3% of students instead of saying we accept 12%, because fewer students applied. So they're actually not going to consider those students as carefully as they will the students with high scores. Now, if there's a student with no score and amazing something else, they're going to move up really fast. So again, it's the race idea. That analogy to me is the most important. If you understand that, you understand admissions, and then you can make your choices. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to sit there and stress out about SAT, ACT, but if you don't have that component, you're not moving in the race. So if you want to get to the front of the race, you've got to keep moving. So you've got to use other things then, and you've got to use more of those to keep up with the students who did submit a good score. Does that make sense?
Yep. So the idea here is submit only if you have good scores. Otherwise,
yes, never submit anything on your application that makes you look bad. Do not submit anything on your application, including bad AP scores. Don't submit an AP score of a 2. Again, boom, that takes you to the negative. Submit an AP score of like a 4 or a 5, that takes you up. A 3 doesn't really move you. So I never tell people to submit 3s unless a university gives credit for them. Some universities will give you college credit for a 3. So call the universities you're applying to. If you've got a 3, do not submit it unless the university gives credit for a 3.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Do we need to submit PSAT score? The answer was no. It was already addressed. And then do you submit your highest score or the latest score?
It depends on the university. Some universities do something called super scoring. A super score is your best score. It's super. So they take your best subsection. So for example, if you take the ACT and you get a 34 on math one time and you get a 32 on math the next time, even though this test was second, they'll take your 34. It depends on the university. You have to find out if they super score. Many universities do super score though. So they're going to automatically take your best sections and calculate it. Now, I do not recommend that you automatically send scores to your universities you're interested in. You know, when you take the SAT, they'll ask you, do you want to submit scores to the universities? List the universities you want to submit scores to. Don't do it. The reason is because you don't know what that score is going to be, and you don't want to submit a low score. So pay the extra. It's free if you submit them on that day, but just pay that extra. I think it's like $10 or $20 to submit it once you get the score back. And then if you have a chance, only submit the high scores. There are some universities that require you to submit every score you take, like Georgetown.
That makes sense.
Which is why we do the practice diagnostics, because it's better to get your bad score when it doesn't count. So if you'd like to do the practice diagnostics, please do join us for those. We do them every month.
Yep, That's a great reminder. Every month you can have your children just log in and take a test. It doesn't hurt.
Exactly. That way they're not going to mess up on the real tests.
Then maybe you might want to provide that link on our website, GradaChiver website.
Oh, okay. Great. Yes,
absolutely. All right. Thank you. And then the next question here is, how many years of foreign language is required for IVs?
Okay, required and the right number to get you to the front of the pack are two different things. So for Ivy League, the most competitive students, which means the ones who end up at the front of the pack in the end and end up in the yes pile, they do 4 years. Most Ivy Leagues require 3 years. Most universities require 2 or more. So I believe it is best to do 4 years if you're looking for the top scholarships or you're looking for the top universities in the country. Ivy League, top tier, top name, Johns Hopkins, Rice, whatever it is, Stanford, even if they're not Ivy because they're not in that little category, the top 20 universities, it's best to have all 5 core subjects, all 4 years.
Thanks, Erin. Like, my question is, like, my son took Spanish in the 7th grade and 8th grade, and he will be doing in 9th grade and 10th grade. So my question is, should he take in 11th and 12th also, or like, because he had completed already 4 years? I'm just asking that question.
They will only count the years that are on the high school transcript.
Okay.
It's a great question. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for answering.
Of course.
Thank you. Next one here is taking a PSAT in 12th grade if the student missed or forgot to register earlier.
PSAT is the National Merit Qualifying Exam. I don't know if all of you know what National Merit is, but National Merit Scholars are a very selective group of students who end up in the top 1%. And then from that group of students, they figure out basically which students they're going to choose as National Merit Scholars. So you have National Merit Finalists and National Merit Scholars. Now, this is very prestigious. It's a very hard award to win. However, it is only done October of junior year. So a lot of people say, but I took the PSAT in freshman year. I took the PSAT sophomore year. That's okay. Those didn't count. Those were just to give you an idea. The junior year is the National Merit Qualifying Exam. So you'll see, it'll say PSAT, and then I'll have a slash, and it'll say like a bunch of other letters, and it's like NMQST, National Merit Qualifying State Test, or something like that. So that's what it is. It's actually only in 11th grade. You have one shot. And there's no retakes. So your high school has to offer it. You can't sign up for the test separately outside of the high school. And that's it. And that's why it's so powerful and potent, and why universities love that test. And it's why they use it to academically recruit students, because you can't take it a bunch of times and get a better score. It's one and done, and everybody takes the exact same test on the same day. Whereas if you take an ACT in December and then your friend takes an ACT in April, those two tests are different. This is truly a standardized test. It's the same for all students. There are 2 different test dates, but so you're only looking at 2 different options. So it really is used by universities. Parents don't really know it. They think it's PSAT stands for practice. It's not a practice test. They're actually using that to recruit. So I'll talk about academic recruitment for just a minute, and then we'll move to another question. But this is something that if you are considering Ivies and your child is high achieving, this is something that so many families don't know about. Academic recruitment is where universities will fly your student out to like come and visit their campus. They'll put you in a hotel, just like they would fly out to watch your games if you were an athlete. So this is an elite thing that happens when you trigger certain things within a university's little like spidey senses. They've got little tick boxes that they're looking to check off. And if you check those off, they start to academically recruit you. Why this is important for high achieving students, parents to know, is because if your child is academically recruited, they are often given massive scholarships. So the more you can have universities fight over you, the less you pay for college. Even if you are going to a college and your top choice is one that is notoriously stingy for merit-based awards, you can actually utilize all of that to your advantage if you get academically recruited. You can create basically a bidding war. I know this sounds crazy, it's a little intense, and you should work with a professional to help you with this, but it's a bidding war scenario where you can negotiate tuition. So that's a full, we could literally do a full session on that, but it's an interesting conversation. So if your child is in that scenario, definitely look into it. If you want to find out more from us, schedule a free call with me and we can talk further. So you can do that through our contact page. All right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. A lot of people don't know about it because it's kind of a secret underworld you don't hear about.
Yep. Academic recruiting. I think, that's another topic. I'm sure many people will benefit having a separate podcast for that. All right. The next question here is, when do students need to submit the recommendation letter?
The recommendation letter is attached to their application. So I highly recommend you get that letter of rec finished by the end of September, because it just feels good to have it in the portal. You can't see it, the teacher has to submit it. And like, I've had students who are like, oh, my teacher hasn't submitted yet, and the deadline is a week away, and we want to actually hit the submit button, and we can't because we're waiting on that letter of rec. So teachers know it's super important and that they have to do it, but it doesn't mean everybody is not a procrastinator. So the earlier you ask, the more likely you'll get that rec on time. So it has to be in your portal by the time you hit submit for your application, whether that's through Common App or through the university's portal.
Yep. Thank you. And the next question is regarding the resources for scholarships. Again, this is the very reason we created the Grad Achiever platform. So only resource right now is to go Google randomly, Ravi. So I encourage you all to join the Grad Achiever community and check out all these scholarships. And if you do find anything new, you have the ability to create one as well there.
It's not a question I can answer anyways, because it's literally, it would take hours, but the most important thing to know about scholarships for families who have financial need, because a lot of families who have financial need are looking for scholarships, is a concept called scholarship displacement. Scholarship displacement is when a university will give you a financial aid. So remember, we talked about two things: scholarships and financial aid. Financial aid is from the government. Scholarships are like bonus money for being good. Okay, so merit-based or financial need. If you were given financial money, let's say they give you $5,000 in financial need for the school year, and then you come in with a $5,000 scholarship that you just won, a lot of universities will say, okay, great, then you don't need the $5,000 from us. That's called scholarship displacement, where they literally will take your merit, your financial aid away. So a lot of outside scholarships, like, people don't know they're putting in all of this effort to do that. We recommend, if your family does not qualify for financial aid, outside scholarships are great. If your family qualifies for a ton of aid, you want to make sure that you're only applying to universities that do not displace scholarships. If you qualify, for example, for $40,000 in financial aid per year, to get $40,000 in outside scholarships would be difficult. It's not unachievable, but it would literally be like a full-time job. So I like to tell parents that, because it's really important information to know. Research the university before you apply, and call if it's not listed on their website and ask them if they displace scholarships. Because if finances are important to you, you don't want to end up in a place where you just got awarded $20,000 in scholarships and you're literally in the same position you were without the scholarships.
Yep, that's a valuable advice. Thank you, Erin. The next question here is, will college come to know if a student has taken an SAT?
They can't know unless you submit scores.
Yep, I think that was the tip you were suggesting, right? Pay extra, but do not submit at the point.
Correct, correct. Don't submit unless it's good.
Yep. All right, the next one here is, if my child got a 34 on ACT, but received 33 in math section and is applying as a STEM major, could it hurt in any way?
A 33 is a solid score. So it depends on the university though. If they're applying to a top university, a 33 in a math could hurt them. So it depends on the university. That would be like a more individualized question. But in general, if their composite score is 34, they're pretty solid. If they got 34s and everything else, that would round them up to a 34. So that would be okay. A 34 is a great score. Again, it depends on the objectives. If you're applying to MIT with a 34 or in a 33 in math, that sounds crazy because it's such a high score. But again, you may not want to because MIT is ultra selective for STEM. So it depends on the university, but in general, my general advice is that that's a good score and you wouldn't feel ashamed of that score. And I would submit it if I were, applying to most universities. There's just maybe a handful that I would question, and we'd really have to decide, like, is everything else super strong enough that won't make them nervous? And that's it.
And I think the follow-up question was, will the composite score have more focus versus the sub-scores? I guess it depends on.
Composite does have more focus, which is why I said because the composite will be there. So the composite does have more focus, but those really big STEM schools like Caltech and MIT, they are going to look at those sub-scores.
Sounds good. Last question here. Do you help transferring students from community college to top colleges? Do you provide those services?
Yes, we do. We do it all. International students, we've got an international student sector. We do regular domestic admissions, and we do transfers as well. Absolutely.
That's awesome. I think that is the end of our questions here.
And look, we're right on time, just a minute over. Yay!
Really appreciate your time taking it over the weekend and helping share all this information with our community, Erin. I'm sure
it's my pleasure.
All your details are there. People will be reaching out to you, and we hope that together we can really create this great community and help each other.
Absolutely. We do tons of workshops, everybody. So if you did find this valuable, please just, come to our next workshop. We'd be happy to see you there and give you more info.
Sounds good.
You're welcome.
Thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us here. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.